So the Senate torture report finally came out this week, and predictably, the corporate media is feigning shock that the government institutionalized and codified a global torture program. It's also having a field day pretending like it cares about torture. Oh, I'm sorry, enhanced interrogation techniques. Oh, I'm sorry, EITs. So, 12 years later, obviously the debate is about how the perpetrator should be held accountable, right? Actually, in order not to appear biased against one of the greatest crimes a government can possibly commit, networks are making sure to provide more than enough time to the actual torture architects to tell their side of the story.
We did exactly what needed to be done in order to catch those who were guilty on 9/11 and to prevent a further attack. And we were successful on both parts.
This report says it was not successful.
The report's full of crap.
In times in which you are threatened, in circumstances of that sort, the rules can be somewhat different under American constitutional law.
We're dealing with animals. We're dealing with groups of people who behead, blow up, exterminate people.
So we too should be animals?
The way you defeat an animal, Carol, oftentimes is to act like one.
I think we were perfectly justified in doing it, and I'd do it again in a minute.
I have absolutely no doubt that Darth Cheney would torture someone again in a heartbeat for no reason, considering the fact that zero actionable intelligence was gleaned from these horrific tactics. But facts aren't stopping the masterminds of the torture program from gallivanting around the MSM explaining why torture worked. And Democrats are just trying to tarnish the GOP's wonderful reputation. And since when does torture have another side? This is 2014. Torture was banned internationally under the UN Convention Against Torture, signed by Reagan in 1984, under which Article 2 states, no exceptional circumstance whatsoever, whether a state of war or a threat of war, internal political instability, or any other public emergency may be invoked as a justification. It goes on to say under Article 3 that an order from a superior officer or public authority may not be invoked as a justification. Wow, Reagan was so ahead of his time. But according to torturers, it's not like they were pulling fingernails out of anything. Come on, guys, what's the harm in simulated drowning? Or tactics, which the report revealed encompassed everything from rectal feeding to rape threats. Come on, guys, they're just threats. And while threats of rape should never be downplayed, I can't help but wonder where the outrage was when we found out that prisoners at Guantanamo Bay and Abu Ghraib were actually raped. One Gitmo prisoner claimed sexual abuse was rampant. At Abu Ghraib, well, there are even photos of rape. Yes, photos. Because apparently the sociopathic guards there wanted to look back and reminisce about torture at their 20-year reunion. Unfortunately, those photos, along with 2,000 others, are being withheld by the Obama cabinet. Gee, I wonder why. Another point that the media is rightfully honing in on is the fact that one prisoner in a dungeon-like torture facility dubbed Cobalt died from hypothermia on a cold, damp floor. But unfortunately, the amount of people that have died in CIA custody post 9/11 is innumerable. Glenn Greenwald pointed out back in 2009 that the interrogation and detention regime implemented by the U.S. resulted in the deaths of over 100 detainees in U.S. custody, at least. Look, anyone who's been paying attention knows that this small summary doesn't tell us a sliver of the dark and disturbing truth. This report has turned into a partisan blame game and is nothing more than a whitewashed, sanitized version of reality. It's good that people are paying attention to this issue again. But the war criminals that ordered and executed the torture, until they're standing on the trial at The Hague, spare me the faux outrage.